This is Computer Science 1213, Intro to Computing. I'm Chris Rule. This is Programming Assignment 4.5, page 183 from the textbook. In the textbook, it says, build a world containing a person who can calculate the average of a sequence of numbers in his or her head. Have the person ask the user how many numbers are in the sequence, and then use the getDoubleFromUser function that many times to get the numbers from the user. When all the numbers have been entered, have your person say the average of those numbers. Additionally, and this was added by me, write a class method called average that uses a whole number parameter called nCount that holds how many numbers there are in the sequence. Also, since the number of items to be entered is known, use the count control for your loop. Now, I've also provided the rubric for this particular assignment, a little more detailed than maybe I've had in the past. It totals 25 points, and it begins with, be sure you follow the rule of thirds. If you don't know what that is, it's in the first chapter of the book. Then use a person as the spokesperson in the program. That'll be someone from the first 5 biped areas. And then a couple of points for announcing their hubris about being able to average numbers in their head. Then 2 more points for asking the user to input the total number of values before the first user input. Before the person watching the program puts in a number, the person asks the user for how many numbers they want averaged. Next, the class method must be contained in the person class area and named correctly, as indicated above. 2 points for the parameter being named correctly. 3 points for the parameter being used properly. The parameter must be used in the class method that you write. 2 points for the loop working with nCount, and 5 points for the average calculation being correctly calculated within the program based on the sum determined by the execution of the loop. A lot of things in there, but that's 5 points. That's 20% of your grade. And then the person must say the correct average. So that's what I'll be looking at when I grade this assignment. Let's take a look at Alice. Here's a blank Alice design with a default to the grass background. And the first thing I'll do is set up the scene because I want some points off this. So I'm going to click this lower curved arrow and get it down to about, it never comes out exact, but it's either here or here. That's about right for the rule of thirds. So I'm going to set the background this way, and I'm going to pull somebody up. I just grab the first one. It needs to be out of these first 5. Anybody you want. In fact, let me just grab a toddler. Here's a toddler. I'm going to generate a random toddler. Whoa, I want a toddler. Where's a toddler? There's a toddler. We'll use that one. Okay. And that's the definition of the toddler, and that's fine. She's a little small, so I'm going to click over here on resize, make sure the toddler's selected, and make the toddler a little bit bigger. The other thing I can do is move my camera to get in a little bit closer. And now I've got a toddler here that can do all the work. Okay, that's all I need on the scene. So I'm going to edit the code. Now let's see what it said. Let's take a look at the directions here. Build a world containing a person, check, who can calculate the average of sequence of numbers in his or her head. Now that's the kind of speech that they would put in at the beginning when it says the person must announce his or her ability to average numbers. So if I come back over here to Alice, I'm on the toddler person, and the toddler person's going to say something. You'll have to decide what it is. I just put in hello. But they need to say that they can do some sort of fantastic averaging. Have the person ask the user how many numbers are in the sequence. Okay, well, that would be another say statement that they would put right there. Then we have to get that number from the user. Now, just to be clear, that is not this function. This one is used to get the actual values in the list. So let's go back and look and see what we can do in Alice. First of all, the number of values is going to be a fixed number. So I'm going to use a variable, and this variable is going to be of the type whole number, because we're not going to ask them for fractional parts of numbers. And we're going to say, enter the number of values to average. And I don't need a space there because it's at the top of that numeric keypad. And I'll put in 0 to start. Oh, that's the name, not the phrase. Sorry. The variable name number of values. How about that? With a 0. Okay, I was getting ahead of myself a little bit. So now I've got this variable. It's an integer or a whole number. There's a 0 in it right now. And what I want to do is get the number of values to average from the user. So I'm going to get this get integer from user. And see, when I drag it over, that 0 spot has a black box. That means I can put this here. So I'm going to put that there. Here's my custom string. I'm going to put that in. And now I'm going to put in, enter the number of values to average. That's where that goes. So now I'm going to define a variable called number of values. And the toddler person is going to get the number of values to average from them. Let's just run this, see what it looks like. Hello, hello, and then enter the number of values to average. So I'll put in 3, and that's the end of the program. Okay. Once I get the number of values to average, I need to create a class method to do that averaging. And it's supposed to be in the person area. So I clicked on this arrow by the hexagon, go down to person, and this first option below person says add person procedure. So I'm going to add a procedure. I'm going to call it average. So now I'm here. And I'm going to add a parameter, and the name of the parameter is incount. And the value type will be a whole number. There's my parameter. Now, if I go back over here to my first method, I've got this variable called number of values. And what if I do an assignment? Oh, no, that won't work. What I want to do is go to the toddler and the procedures, and I've got this toddler person average in count. And we'll pull that over here and put in number of values. What that does is that the toddler person executes the method called average using the parameter in count, which now has the value of number of values from up above here. So if I put in a 3 up here, now in count is a 3, and it goes over here to the average. So now I can count up to in count. And this right here is for any person. I have a person over there. I'm doing this method with the toddler person. So down here outside of the loop, I want the person to say the average of the list of numbers is, with a space, so that's the end. So let's go back and look at this Word document here and see what's been covered in the rubric. I did the rule of thirds. I've got a person as the spokesperson. I put in a place for them to announce their ability to average numbers. I put in a place for them to ask the total number of values for the user before it's done. The class method is in the person class and named average. The parameter is named correctly. I'm using the parameter properly. The loop works with in count. I've got a place for the person to say the average. And so that just leaves you this little bit here. I mean, you got to put in some text. It's not too hard. But you've got to figure out what the sum of the numbers are and what the average, calculate the average of that. And then use that average, which can change every time I run the program for you to get it right. Use that average down here when the person says the correct average. So that's most of the rubric. So email me if you have concerns or questions. And that concludes the video on Project 4.5, page 183. Don't forget the additional instructions.